This might just be game one of week 2, but this is a continued journey of series points to try to make that semifinals, which eventually leads to the grand finals at the end of the day. And this being the first chance that these teams will have to perform, you really have to set the tone and the pace in this game right here. You cannot go down early, because then you start to have those doubts. You start to get the negative thoughts, and then your game gets a landslide downward from there. So it's all about confidence. That's going to be the key.
Look, confidence is key, but what I do like about this mode, on the contrary, is instead of being a set lobby, if you end up going down right off rip, right off the spawn, you do have to not wait as long as you would in a set lobby. So what I'm basically saying is, you know, there is 5 lobbies going on at the same time. You get elimed off spawn, and then you can go basically right into another match, so you don't kind of have to wait for a good amount of minutes and lose kind of that momentum from the start. But at the same time, it does affect you mentally, right? Mental is key in Fortnite competitive, and making sure you can just refresh those bad games to get right into the next one is crucial to coming out on top. But for a lot of the duos here that we're seeing in this first match, not a lot of contestations, but I might be speaking too soon as we get right into Snooty here, where we do have one of the most popular POIs, and the action is getting started quickly. Yeah, it looks like Nitrox was able to get that first down, easily clean that one up. There's 3 teams towards Snooty steps for now, or let's just say 2.5. And on the other side, Cade and his duo kind of have that medallion and that mythic hammer pump to themselves if they can finish it quick enough. But the thing is, you don't necessarily know when players are rotating over due to the NPCs, due to the audio visuals. It does get a little confusing, but you have the opportunity with so many teams towards the outskirts biting for their own time. And you see in the minimap, medallion goes down, so that's going to be a quick amount of loot being gathered on that side of the map. And since there's nobody pushing it, they have a lot of flexibility to where they want to continue to loot up or simply rotate to zone. Flexibility, but also danger. I mean, having that mythic hammer pump shotgun from the Peter Griffin NPC, it just makes it that much more popular. But switching over back, Savage Mongrel, uncontested, nice free. I mean, you can even look bottom right at the minimap. I don't see a single duo close to them. They looted up really quickly. You know they have their loot path planned out, practiced, and maximized in terms of efficiency. So they're going right on to continue their rotations through. That's the thing, though, about landing where they're at. They do get a lot of comfortability and flexibility, just like Marius and Sanglid here, is they get a good amount of loot on those split POI drops away from the actual medallion. And since players are fighting for fancy fills, they are fighting for Snooty steps, they have a lot of time before those teams even rotate in their position. So they have a ton of priority in terms of their next rotate. All about planning ahead. Taking a look, though, Chris. Hugo, Fencing Fields, another incredibly popular POI, and it's Merstash, actually, who's going to be the one going down. Game 1, will Malibuka be able to come back? No, gets taken out as well. One of our Titan duos eliminated off the start. Good news, 10 matches, Jacob. We've said it already, to be played out. So hopefully they can get right back into it quickly and not let that affect them. Yeah, and if you kind of look at their last week performance, they definitely have something they can hang their hat on in terms of not having to worry too much about falling down that series points leaderboard. But one fight to the next, we saw them. It looked like it was smooth sailing for the early game, but Mr. Savage is going to be down, which puts a lot of pressure on the Mongrel shoulders here, especially with another team coming in, and a little bit of a mishap. He tries to toss Savage body right at him, say, here, if you want him, you can have him, let me live, but he goes down. But that second team, the third party coming in, Myra and Kingos, they're just trying to take away that loot. And as soon as they found what they wanted in that Flowberry Fizz, they immediately disengage. And with the lobby having a lot of action early on, the first couple of Storm Surges might not be as prevalent as they were last week. Might not be, especially in this first game. I mean, it was looking so bright for Mr. Savage Mongrel, but the shadows creeped in. I don't know what went wrong. Merstash, Malibuka, Savage Mongrel, a lot of Titan duos going down here quickly. For Cherry and Giraz, though, once again, with 3 eliminations actually to their name so early on, this could be huge for them. Already good on materials, good on loot. All they have to do really is play semi-passively here. I think it's what they're looking to do. Edge of the map, on congested side. They basically have it set in stone.
And so many options. They have that yacht towards their south where they can launch pad, and a high mountain with a static launch pad towards their north. So I feel like they're not necessarily going to be in a rush to rotate, but a team that might be in a little bit of a hurry is Nathan and CZB. You see them all the way on the eastern edge where the zone is pulling towards the west. This is towards Grand Glacier. Again, there is some static launch pads to help with mobility, but as every other team beats you to the punch, getting to the actual EVS zone is where they're going to find difficulty.
Looking back over. Bit more action here. Diox is the one being the aggressor, taking some shots at the wall, but nothing too serious yet. You said it yourself. First match with all the fights that have broken out. Surge might not be too much of a priority, but I'm thinking it could be. Diox, though, making use of that Peter Griffin mythic pump. You know he can hit hard if he's able to connect that initial shot. And it looks like they might just want to take a full-on engagement here almost. They're just looking for that option, that opportunity, that opening. But their opponents have so many builds around them. They're playing so passive. Without that initial advantage, it might just not be worth it.
The thought process, I like the thought process out of that. And they were trying to be very, very calculated in their play, but Zara and Radion's just trying to bull rush into a 2v1. Maze is just trying to get out all by himself momentarily, trying to alleviate the pressure for Driz, finally getting to the box. That Thunder Burst SMG is just dealing so much damage in the blink of an eye, even going right through the builds. And I think Meza has done enough to alleviate some of that pressure. Now both teams have one person that's weak, needing a heal. Zara's trying to keep the pressure up and not let anything go on over for free. Medkit's already going to be popped. Piece control going over. Zara's just trying to minimize the opportunity that they're giving on over to the teammates, but it's just not happening quick enough. Everybody here is going to be able to heal up, and since they're center zone, they have so much time to do what they want to do here.
Damage has been dealt, but they're not done yet. Radion now getting closer and closer. Ooh. He gets cracked. The aggression comes through. Will the knock as well? Not yet, as it looks like. Oh, he did get knocked. Actually, 2v1 now. Player advantage from Meza and Driz. 6 floppers as well to their name. Question is, do they continue the aggression now? Do they chase Zara? Or do they heal up and play it slow, happy that they came out on top in the engagement?
Yeah, I feel like for them right now, it does look like they're deciding to take it slow, take it steady, one fight at a time, one foot in front of the next. After they finish that one, they're going to go and let Zara go ahead and escape. And you see not too far away is another team in the distance. So you have to be very, very careful and pick wisely where you're going to rotate to, because everything can come crashing down in a moment's notice. As we jump on board Vanyak and S1ned, they built themselves a huge monument in the sky. A lot of safety with those cones. They're just trying to go for Surge. But the interesting thing is he has that Thunderburst SMG, so Surge is going to be something that is going to be the most easiest thing for this duo to get from their current position.
Looks like a piece of art in the sky right now. Reminded me of the old OG Fortnite days. Got those castles built up. Meanwhile, Blacha, Yapko in a bush. You know, Blaha getting ready. But it looks like there are no opponents close by. Once again, just looking for those options, looking for those opportunities, staying elevated, most importantly, to have the most vision possible on their surroundings for those opponents rotating through, as they've should have finished up looting by now and started their rotations. But with 0 eliminations, they're looking pretty hungry to find a bit of tags.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is, I feel like not everybody is really concerned with Surge right now because of how active the lobby is. Only 66 players alive, 35 teams, but there's going to come a point in time, if it's not necessarily a focal point, Storm Surge will turn on. And if you haven't made it a part of your plan, even though it hasn't been a focus here, that's going to put you in an interesting situation because you might not necessarily have prepared for it. So a lot of these teams that are kind of in the slower side, in the outskirts, middle zone by themselves without much Surge to their name, those are the ones that are going to have to fight for it and make those risky plays later on. But for Raxi and Darm, they're just kind of smooth sailing, getting to zone. They started on the far east, so they've had a journey just to get up into this point. And as soon as they get into zone, I think that's where they're going to start to gather information, figure out where every player is positioned at, and then kind of go from there.
Lazen making use of that Flowberry crash pad rotation. I love that rotation. Looks so fun. As now, actually, The aggression as well. Looks like it's going to come through if they've cracked an opponent. Be careful, though. A lot of duos in the surrounding area. Have to be cautious here as danger levels are high. If you want these eliminations, you got to be quick with it. There is that cash. There is that extra loot. Atrax doesn't want to give it up so easily, but with the pressure, with the danger, the surrounding duos, they've decided we're going to have to give it up.
Yeah, and there's going to be a couple of caches littered around this outskirts with a lot of teams kind of rotate in. Raisin and Junior, they're going to be able to kind of push a couple of teams away. You see Gweed and Nano sneaking by, and I feel like he knows somebody's there. He just may not know exactly where they're positioned, but I think he might have saw a little bit of the leg, maybe the hip sticking out. So that's crucial information when he needs it most. But sorry, you'll see him getting chased around the map by Meza and Driz. For them, they think this is not only crucial surge, but points for their total. Depending on where they're at in the leaderboard, they want to have a big first game and start to build that confidence. But Zara, if he's able to get out alive, you can see he has the mythic frenzy auto shotgun. You got to imagine he has the medallion as well. His shields are being healed. Driz just oversteps by himself. Meza goes in to save the day, and that's going to be a huge success and a huge sigh of relief.
That was a continuation of that engagement we saw earlier on. Was Zara lost his duo partner, but now came back. But for how long? Didn't make it too far. Raxi, Darm, edge of zone, rotating in. There is a duo holding them. Train coming through. Are you jumping on that train, Jacob? I'm not personally, but
two peas in a pod. We're thinking the same. I'm jumping on the train because my thought process is right. It's not necessarily a smart move. Admittedly so, especially this late in the game. It's not a smart move. But who's going to expect someone to be on the train if it's not a smart move? So I think that's why I'm going to risk it, and that's probably why I'm going down as soon as the train gets in zone.
Look, thinking ahead. 5-head plays there. Giga Brain, I like it. Cade now. Diox once again. You know they love action. No elims for their name yet, but with the aggression we're seeing, I wouldn't be surprised if they get some shortly. You can look how compact, though, their current location is in terms of players. Everybody close together. It's third-party heaven right now, as now he continues looking around, finding those openings, but I don't know if it's the play to play aggressive here, especially not being in zone already.
Yeah, almost a quarter of the lobby left alive is on that side of the map. I counted about 7 teams, 14 individual players just stacked on one side. That's going to make the rotation tough if you don't have any mobility in terms of the grapple blade or the Flowberry Fizz, Flowberry combination with, you know, a number of things, including the crash pad that we've already seen today alone. Sky Jump, hopefully he has his duos card. You see him going towards the backside of the zone. Hopefully trying to get him back, but only time will tell. It's either that or going to the slow side of the zone to where he's hoping the least amount of teams will be at, which will kind of give him an easier road as a solo.
It's difficult. Let's see how he ended up as a solo, though. Lost his duo partner here quickly. Went in for the engagement, though, and was able to clean it up. But even if you clean it up, losing a teammate, it doesn't make it worth it. Having to clutch it before even being in moving zones. So many placement points to be earned along the way as Yapko and Blaha continue with their little bush strategies. They're actually split between 2 different bushes here around the train tracks, continuing to hunt for opportunities. They do have that Reaper sniper rifle in hand. Incredibly dangerous for the opponents in the surrounding area, but so far nothing.
I was kind of hoping they bought a ticket to go ride the train, but it's going their opposite direction towards the outside of the zone. You can see a couple teams going to meet that one. H3OJ and Sean just trying to hold people back towards the outside of the zone, but they're not in the zone themselves. Sean actually goes down. That puts his teammate in such a tough spot. That's Nano and Gweed, who is just slowly but surely third-partying and just hiding behind so many other teams. Instead of going for the simple elimination, they're just trying to get ahead and go to zone. He does not have HP to regain at this point in time, but ahead of him is both Cade and Diox. You know what loot they have on them, so this is going to be hard for Gweed to survive. You see the pressure coming in from multiple different angles, including other teams as well that want to try to steal away this elimination. A lot of builds are being expended for Gweed, so even if he finds a way to survive this, I'm not sure what he'll have left on him. And they even changed targets to go after Nano, who might go down to the zone here if he just takes a little bit too long, because he's getting pushed further and further into that direction.
H30 though, straight on in, knocking Nano. Meanwhile, you have the starving duo of Diox and Cade right below. They're hungry for those eliminations. You know they want it, as now they continue their aggression, pushing through. All it takes is one big shot. The players from afar taking those shots, and there it is, Cade finishing up the engagement. 3 eliminations now from 0 to 3 real quick. But they have just 10 seconds until Storm starts closing. Long distance to go. Hopefully they have those grapple blades to assist with the rotate. But meanwhile, we move back to another duo. Now, Cherry Giraz inside of, once again, a bush.
Yeah, just seeing a few seconds of that mini-map there. You see the zone is pulling all the way towards the northwest. So a lot of these teams that are already positioned here, they've done a good job to secure their spot. For a lot of those teams that are still on the southeastern side of the zone, it might get tougher and tougher to rotate on over if the zone continues in this trend. Got to be able to plan for that in the future. You got Darky and Darkest just trying to spread themselves out. They become a focus of multiple teams here in the lobby. Thankfully, they've done enough to slow it down, because if the lobby would have kept going, that would have forced them to expend a ton of mats and resources in the current position, to where that's not what you want to happen. And if you look at the bottom right hand of your screen right now, Takata, there are so many teams rotating in this direction. This is so stacked compared to what we saw literally moments ago watching the northwest side of the zone.
Look, in the first qualifier last week, it was cold, it was chilly up in the hills around the snowy area, but now, on the contrary, in the forest, I'm liking this environment. It's different, it's refreshing, and we'll have to see how the players make use of it. A lot more bushes here, a lot more opportunities to be a bit sneaky, so you do have to be careful as you're rotating through. And with players like CZB, 23 bullets, with a Reaper Sniper in hand, you have to be careful when you're rotating.
Yeah, especially this one. I thought the last one was worse for a lot of those South teams. Now it's just going to get worse for everybody else, to where this side of the zone wasn't necessarily congested as it once was, but as everybody has to go on over, they're going to find their spot here. And as soon as zone begins to open up, you can see it's a 50-50 for now. That will give a lot of space for teams to try to go where nobody currently is positioned, but it does come at a risk, especially if you're currently positioned in a great spot. So for now, it's going to be a little bit of that waiting game until Storm Surge starts to force a lot of that action. And see, finally it turns on. I ask, I get. Vanyak and S1ned are going to be 45 above the damage threshold, which, Sakata, you know as well as I do, it's something, but it's not enough to where now they're worried about it, and that's why you see them looking around.
Not close to enough, as they have to be careful, though. With sniper rifles being so dominant, especially in these situations where you just want a few tags for Surge, you could just open up that peak, and it could be the end if you end up getting headshot sniped. As now, we look at the shots come through, players now hunting, getting a bit scared. They know what has to be done. You can see the west, even southwest side of the zone, full of duos right now, playing purposely here, possibly in the congested side to get that damage done, but be careful. Grapple blade opening up opportunities for the opponents to take shots. Luckily enough, they've made it in. Duo already has a base. Gonna have a bit of time to recuperate all that shield and HP that was lost.
Yeah, I'd say it looked like a little bit of a blessing and a curse there. They took a lot of damage, like you said, but at least they got themselves back-to-back spots in zone to where they can take this moment to figure out what their next game plan and strategy is going to be in terms of holding on to your spot. But if you look at, there's so many more teams, probably more than half the lobby, having to rotate towards the eastern edge to find themselves a spot. Sanity and Zardo, they're going to be kind of late rotating behind a lot of these teams, but instead of going straight towards the right, they're just trying to white line it in and go directly to where not a lot of teams are currently at, but they're beating them to the punch. The longer you take, the harder it's going to be.
It's going to be an incredibly difficult rotate no matter what. You can see how many duos are already based up alongside the borderline of this 7th zone here, meaning all these duos that have to rotate a bit late now have that danger of not only the duos in Storm shooting back at them, but also their competitors around them rotating in at the same time. You can see Zardo even looking around to see how the opportunities, the options are looking, but making good use of the environment here. using the hills, the trees to block the line of sight from their opponents that are already based up, and it might have just given them a very free rotate.
Yeah, they're even looping around to try to take the top of that left-hand side. So the biggest worry when they get there is going to be Storm Surge and how they're going to get the damage needed. Vanyak and S1ned 41 above, still having a little bit of comfortability, but not too much as he looks on into the distance. Peeks a couple shots through. That's going to help his total, but he gets aggressed on from the bottom, and that's why you think the awareness from this duo is at an all-time high. They quickly react to a possible bull rush from that player, and now they're trying to go on the offensive. They don't want to look weak, and you see them going ahead and stretching themselves out, putting pressure out, and I think they're doing a good job because now they're even adding to their Storm Surge total.
Zone now popped up north. All these duos now planning the rotation. Meanwhile, it looks like the ones that were already there early, the ones that rotated in late, have a lot of trouble getting focused by the lobby as S1ned and Vanyak are on the calmer side here, being the aggressors, taking those shots. As this is an interesting zone. Bridge,
yeah,
causes that huge change in elevation. If the zone pulls back south, even southeast after, we could have some interesting rotates, but it's going to be Blaha and Yapko. We're going to get ahead early here. Box themselves in. They have to be careful, though.
This is just one of those zones where if you're not prepared properly for the drastic pulls, no matter which direction it goes, towards the east, open water, towards the north, different elevations plus water, and then the south in which you were talking about combined with the west, the different elevations again. So refreshes are going to be so impactful here once we get a little bit later on in this game. But Blaha and Yapko, they're just kind of smooth sailing. You saw them go from bush to the position where they're in now. They don't want to take too many fights. Storm Surge isn't a worry. It's about making it to the zone. Eliminations will naturally present themselves as long as they keep themselves alive.
Running low on ammunition as well. 55 medium shots. You got to be careful here, knowing when to conserve, especially if you need that damage done. Yeah. 3 elims to their name so far. So they should be looking a bit better. We saw them just on the borderline as the zone was starting off. As Vanyak now might be making some calls as they continue to look up. This zone,
yeah,
is insane. They have to cross all the water onto an island, remote island zone right now. This is going to be interesting.
They're either going to expend a lot of builds, or hopefully they brought their water rings along the way to swim across the waters. You even see the medallions getting passed behind on that low ground. S1ned looking towards the backside, try to see if anybody's staggering with those med kits. A good amount of damage being dished out, and needed damage at that. They're 67 below the damage threshold. Myra gets taken down along the way. That's a good amount of damage, but still not enough to push them over. Lays and locks towards the low ground. They're below the damage threshold as well and continuously falling, but this is a good position to go ahead and pop those shots on players that are going towards the front side of the zone, and they did just enough to get above the threshold.
Just above by 4. 39 players still up, 22 duos. Looks like Vanyak and his duo still holding the clouds. Meanwhile, Darky with 3 elims, but for how long? Is it S1ned now? Still maintaining up above, taking those shots as he's being contested. This could be a huge zone to maintain, as most likely it goes north again, pulling even further, causing the use of even more materials now for these duos rotating down below. Cherry, Giraz, 4 total elims. Nathan going in for that aggression, full stacked up on materials though. Yep. They have options.
They have 2 eliminations so far, only 118 above the damage threshold, but shots like that is going to give them even more damage to count on. Finding another elimination onto Locks, picking up the Siphon. That's a huge amount of materials that they're able to get from that refresh and keeping themselves alive, but CZB goes down along the way. The aggression for Blaha and Yapko's there. They're able to get it down onto Clarky, but there's so much chaos going around. A couple of missed edits. They're able to break through, but it came at a cost. 40 damage done to Yapko due to the storm.
Dropping down lower. Chaos fueling this duo as now the zone pulls east. Remote island engagements coming through. Cherry, Giraz, 4 elims on the board, 41 builds to work with. Flowberry is popped. Enhanced mobility comes through. Boxed up close to opponents. They have to be careful here. Meanwhile, Darky inside of a box, continuing his rotate along the edge of Storm, maintaining safety. while conserving materials.
Yeah, teamwork making the dream work. You saw Darkus in a tough spot. Darky there to go ahead and chop down that build and give him a little bit of safety. Traveling towards the right. They're going to try to get ahead of everybody else. Raxi and Darm, they're trying to go through the lobby. Take it by force. That's going to be the key here. And as soon as they do, they switch layers. They're trying to continuously look back on some of these teams and keep their mat count high. And I think with 600 builds, they got to be some of the most healthiest in the lobby. A turn and burn from Yapko, able to take down Driz. And those refresh mats, that saves his life there and keeps him going forward.
Let's talk about healthiest. Yapko looking like one of the unhealthiest in terms of materials. Only 4 builds to work with. Jiro's now as well at 6 alongside Cherry. They have to find something, and they look for it here. Drop down. Engagement comes through. They knock one. Get a refresh of materials here. 240 wood now to work with. Kantar run ahead, stay ahead of their opponents. S1ned and Vanyak maintain the height throughout this whole end game. As Blaha now looks like he's going to go down to Storm, but he did secure a quick elim.
Yeah, the final zone is really forcing a lot of people into interesting positions, and because of how drastic these pulls were, a lot of the mats have been expended from everybody left in the lobby. Chari's going to find the med kit and an elimination onto Prime as he continues to look back and back to back. Chari takes down Darkus as well. That whole duo is gone, but he goes a little bit ahead of himself. Raxi's going to be able to take him down. Top 3 situation. S1ned and Vanyak finally drop down. Gears trying to heal off to the backside of zone. Vanyak does not want to let it go through. With a few seconds left, lands one shot, stops the med kit, which gets a huge advantage on over to S1ned, who has 4 med kits to use. He gets a little bit closer just in case push comes to shove. A 1v1 situation for heal off. S1ned, 4 med kits left, make it 3 as one goes out. He's trying to go in for the final elimination, secures it with ease, even with 3 med kits left.
Vanyak, S1ned coming out on top in their first match with confidence. Had 3 medkits in the inventory, but S1ned said, no, I don't want to use these medkits. I want an extra elimination. Dropped straight down, played for that aggression, secured the elimination alongside that victory.
Yeah, and the way they were just able to hold high ground from 8th zone onward, it seemed like they had no problems because of these zones going up and down elevations through waters. Nobody was really able to look up and challenge them, and from there they had it in the books. 5 different med kits, didn't even need them all. S1ned and Vanyak win game 1, but with so much action left to unfold, Adam, Mini, Levin, let's break down that game.